They kept it locked in vaults, hidden in texts you'd never see, guarded by gates you weren't meant to pass through, but you found it anyway. That forbidden knowledge, the kind reserved for those born into power, into legacy, into bloodlines that trace back to empires. And when you absorbed what was never meant for you, you didn't just learn their secrets. You became something they never anticipated, something they can't control. Let me tell you what really happened when you crossed that threshold. See, there's this lie that's been whispered through generations. The lie that wisdom belongs to the chosen few. That certain knowledge is birthright property. That you need the right last name, the right connections, the right pedigree to access the strategies that actually build empires. They want you believing that power is inherited, not earned. That mastery is bloodline business, not available to someone who had to claw their way to the library. But here's the truth they never wanted you to discover. Knowledge doesn't care about your lineage. Wisdom doesn't check your family tree before it transforms you. When you absorb the principles that built dynasties, when you decode the patterns that created generational wealth, when you crack open the philosophies that shaped world changers, that information rewrites your DNA on a different level. It doesn't matter if your grandfather was a king or a coal miner. The moment you understand leverage, compound interest, strategic positioning, human psychology, negotiation mastery, and the architecture of influence, you become dangerous. And you know what's wild? You actually did it. While they were protecting their little monopoly on success principles, you went around the gatekeepers. You found the books they didn't advertise. You discovered the courses they didn't promote to people like you. You listened to the podcasts at 3 a.m. while working a job they'd never take. You reverse engineered their moves by watching from the outside. You became a student of the game without asking permission to enroll. You absorbed forbidden knowledge. And it changed everything. Remember where you were before? You were playing by their rules, the ones that keep most people spinning in circles. Get the degree they approve of. Take the job they deem respectable. Follow the path they've laid out. Stay in your lane. Don't ask too many questions. Don't reach too high. Don't think you can build what they've built just because you want it badly enough. You were living in that box, and maybe part of you believed that's where you belonged, that the ceiling over your head was structural, not imposed, that your limitations were real, not manufactured, that people like you don't become people like them. But then something shifted. Maybe it was desperation. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was pure stubborn refusal to accept the script they'd written for your life. Whatever it was, you started seeking. And you found what you weren't supposed to find. The first piece of forbidden knowledge you absorbed. The game isn't rigged against you. It's just that nobody taught you the actual rules. They gave you the public rule book. The one that keeps you safe, keeps you small, keeps you manageable. But the real players, they're operating from a completely different manual. And once you got your hands on that manual, once you understood that wealth isn't about working harder, but about working differently, that influence isn't about being loudest, but about being most strategic, that power isn't about force, but about positioning, you couldn't unknow it. You started seeing the matrix. The patterns became obvious. Why certain people rise effortlessly while others grind endlessly. Why some businesses explode while others struggle. Why particular individuals command rooms while others fade into background noise. It's not magic, it's not luck, it's not even talent most of the time, it's knowledge. Specific, actionable, powerful knowledge that creates asymmetric advantages. And you consumed it like you were starving. Because you were. You learned about leverage, how to multiply your effort by connecting it to systems, people, and capital. You studied negotiation, how to create win-win scenarios where you win bigger. You decoded persuasion, how human psychology works at scale, how decisions are really made, how belief systems form and can be shifted. You discovered positioning, how to become the obvious choice in your space by owning specific territory in people's minds. You mastered resource allocation, how to deploy limited assets for maximum impact by understanding where ROI lives. This wasn't college textbook theory. This was the distilled wisdom of people who actually built something from nothing. The patterns used by immigrants who became billionaires. The strategies employed by dropouts who outmaneuvered Harvard grads. The mindset shifts that turn failures into founders, rejections into resilience, setbacks into stepping stones. You absorbed it all, and it started showing up in how you moved. Suddenly, you weren't just reacting to life, you were designing it. You stopped accepting whatever opportunities came your way and started creating the opportunities you wanted. You quit asking for permission and started taking calculated risks. You released the need for everyone's approval and started making decisions based on strategic value. You stopped consuming mindlessly and started building deliberately. People noticed. They always do when someone breaks pattern. Some of them got uncomfortable. Because when you operate from knowledge they don't have, when you see moves they can't anticipate, when you navigate obstacles like you've got a map they can't access, it creates cognitive dissonance for them. How is this person, who started where I started, who faced what I faced, who came from what I came from, how are they suddenly operating on a different frequency? The answer makes them uncomfortable because it means they could have done it too. It means the gap between where they are and where they want to be isn't about circumstances or luck or bloodlines. It's about what they chose to absorb and apply. But you're not worried about their comfort anymore. That's another thing forbidden knowledge does. It frees you from needing external validation. When you understand the principles that actually drive results, you stop caring if people understand your moves. You stop explaining yourself to people who aren't even in the arena. You stop seeking approval from individuals who haven't built what you're building. You became something they didn't anticipate, a self-made master of the game. Not because you inherited the playbook, because you stole it. Not because doors opened for you, because you kicked them down. Not because the path was clear, because you macheted through jungle they said was impassable. And here's what happened in that transformation. You didn't just learn their secrets. You evolved past their limitations because they were born into it. They often take it for granted. They follow templates without understanding why they work. They inherit strategies without innovating on them. They maintain what was built without pushing boundaries. But you had to understand every principle from first principles. You had to prove every concept through application. You had to earn every insight through experimentation, which means you actually understand the foundations better than people who just memorize the formulas. You know why the machine works, not just which buttons to push. This is your edge. This is what you became. You became someone who thinks like an owner, not an employee. Someone who spots leverage points others miss. Someone who connects dots that seem unrelated to everyone else. Someone who builds systems instead of just completing tasks. Someone who understands that mastery isn't about knowing everything. It's about knowing the right things deeply and knowing how to find everything else quickly. You absorb the forbidden knowledge about money, that it's not a scarce resource to hoard, but an abundant tool to deploy. That wealth isn't built by saving pennies, but by creating value at scale. That financial freedom isn't about having enough to stop working, but about building assets that work for you. That the wealthy don't work for money. They make money work for them through investments, businesses, intellectual property, and strategic partnerships. You learn that the rich understand something the poor don't. Money is emotional energy, converted into numerical form. It flows toward value, toward solutions, toward transformation. So instead of chasing money, you learn to create value so compelling that money chases you. You stopped thinking like a consumer and started thinking like a creator. You quit measuring wealth by what you can buy and started measuring it by what you can build. You discovered that every dollar is a soldier in your army, And wealthy people deploy their soldiers strategically while poor people let their soldiers desert through mindless spending. You learned about compound interest. Einstein called it the eighth wonder of the world. You understood that time plus consistency plus smart deployment equals exponential results. That getting rich quick is a myth, but getting rich systematically is a science. You absorbed the forbidden knowledge about time, that it's your only non-renewable resource and most people are criminally wasteful with it. That productivity isn't about doing more, but about doing what matters. That focus is the ultimate competitive advantage in a world designed to distract you. You learned that successful people don't have more time than you. They have better systems. They batch similar tasks. They eliminate, automate, or delegate everything that doesn't require their unique abilities. They protect their peak performance hours like fortresses and relegate low-value activities to low-energy windows. They understand that attention is the currency of the modern economy, and whoever controls attention controls outcomes. You discovered that saying no is more important than saying yes. That every commitment you make to something unimportant is a betrayal of something important. That busy doesn't equal productive. That motion doesn't equal progress. That the most successful people have nearly empty calendars because they're selective about where they invest their time. You learned about time blocking, the Pomodoro technique, the 2-minute rule, the Eisenhower matrix, deep work protocols, and the power of single tasking in a multitasking world. But more than techniques, you absorbed the philosophy. Your time is your life, and how you spend your hours is how you spend your years. Waste time, and you waste life. Invest time wisely, and you build a masterpiece. You discovered the forbidden knowledge about influence, that it's not about manipulation, but about genuinely understanding what people want and helping them get it. That leadership isn't about authority, but about vision. That trust is the ultimate currency, and it's earned through consistency, not charisma. You learned that influence operates on principles as reliable as gravity. Reciprocity, people feel obligated to give back what they receive. Social proof, people follow what others are doing. Authority, people defer to experts. Liking, people say yes to those they like. Scarcity, people want what's rare or running out. Consistency, people align their actions with their commitments. But you went deeper. You understood that real influence isn't about using these principles to get what you want. It's about creating so much value that people naturally want to support you, promote you, partner with you. You learned that the most influential people are the most useful people. They solve problems, they connect resources, they create opportunities, they make things happen. You discovered that your network is your net worth, but not in a transactional way most people think. It's not about collecting business cards, it's about building genuine relationships with people who challenge you, complement your skills, and share your values. You learned that one strategic relationship can be worth more than 1,000 casual connections. You absorbed the truth that communication is the meta skill that amplifies all other skills. That you can have the best ideas in the world, but if you can't articulate them, persuade others of their value, and inspire action around them, they die in your head. You learn to tell stories that stick, craft messages that spread, and present ideas that move people from indifference to action. You unlock the forbidden knowledge about failure, that it's not the opposite of success, but the tuition you pay for it, that every setback contains information your competitors don't have. That resilience isn't about not falling, but about getting up faster and wiser every time. You learn that failure is feedback, that what doesn't work teaches you what might, that every entrepreneur who made it big failed repeatedly before they broke through, that Edison tested thousands of materials before finding the right filament for the light bulb, that Dyson created over 5,000 prototypes before perfecting his vacuum, that J.K. Rowling was rejected by 12 publishers before Harry Potter became a global phenomenon. You discovered that the people who never fail are the people who never try. That playing it safe is the riskiest strategy of all because it guarantees mediocrity. That comfort is the enemy of growth, and growth is the essence of life. You learn to reframe failure from something that defines you to something that refines you. You absorb the understanding that resilience is a muscle you build through progressive overload. Just like in the gym, you need increasing resistance to develop strength. Each comeback makes you more confident. Each lesson learned makes you more strategic. You become anti-fragile, not just resistant to chaos, but improved by it. You learn that winners and losers face the same number of setbacks. The difference is interpretation. Losers see failure as evidence they're not good enough. Winners see failure as evidence they're getting closer to what works. Losers quit when things get hard. Winners recalibrate and push harder. You absorb the forbidden knowledge about competition, that the best players aren't trying to beat everyone else, they're trying to become so unique that comparison becomes irrelevant. That market dominance comes from creating your own category, not winning in someone else's. That collaboration often yields more than competition. You learn that competing on price is a race to the bottom. That competing on quality can work, but requires constant vigilance. That competing on experience creates loyalty that transcends logical comparison. You discovered that the brands people love aren't always the best. They're the ones that connect emotionally, tell compelling stories, and stand for something beyond their product. You understood that competition is for losers. Not in the sense that you avoid competing, but in the sense that if you're in a competitive market, you're already playing the wrong game. The real winners create blue oceans, untapped market spaces where competition is irrelevant because they've invented something new. They ask different questions. They serve underserved audiences. They combine existing elements in novel ways. You learned about Peter Thiel's question. What important truth do very few people agree with you on? Because that's where opportunity lives, in the contrarian insight, in the unpopular opinion that turns out to be right, in the path everyone else overlooked because it seemed too risky, too weird, too different. You discovered that strategic partnerships can eliminate competition overnight, that the person you're competing against might become your most valuable collaborator if you shift the frame. That abundance mindset beats scarcity mindset every time because it opens doors that fear keeps closed. You internalized the forbidden knowledge about energy, that your mental and physical state determines your decisions, and your decisions determine your destiny. That discipline is choosing what you want most over what you want now. That environment shapes behavior more than willpower does, so you design your environment deliberately. You learn that high performers treat their bodies like Formula One race cars, not like rental cars. They understand that sleep isn't laziness, it's performance optimization. That exercise isn't vanity, it's mental clarity, stress management, and longevity investment. That nutrition isn't restriction, it's fuel selection for optimal cognitive and physical function. You discovered that your morning routine determines your day, and your day repeated becomes your life. That the first hour after waking sets your mental state, energy level, and momentum. You learned about hydration before caffeine, movement before screens, intention before reaction. You built rituals that prime you for excellence instead of leaving your state to chance. You absorb the truth that what you consume mentally is as important as what you consume physically. That scrolling feeds of outrage, comparison, and negativity literally rewires your brain toward anxiety and dissatisfaction. That the content you consume, the conversations you have, and the people you spend time with are either elevating you or draining you. There's no neutral. You learned about energy management over time management. That you have different types of energy, physical, emotional, mental, spiritual. and all need deliberate renewal. That the most productive people aren't grinding 20 hours a day. They're alternating between intense, focused sprints and complete recovery. They understand that rest isn't the opposite of work. It's what makes great work possible. You discovered that willpower is a depletable resource, so relying on it is a losing strategy. Instead, you build systems that make good decisions automatic. You design your environment so the default path is the right path. You remove friction from desired behaviors and add friction to undesired ones. You make success inevitable through architecture, not effort. You absorb the forbidden knowledge about identity, that who you think you are determines what you do, and what you do consistently determines who you become. That transformation isn't about changing your actions, it's about changing your self-concept. That you'll never outperform your identity for long. You learn that most people try to achieve their way into a new identity. They think, if I make $1 million, then I'll be successful and then I'll feel confident. But it works in reverse. You have to become the person first. You have to adopt the identity, embody the mindset, think the thoughts, make the decisions the person would make. Then the results follow naturally. You discovered James Clear's truth. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you want to become. Going to the gym is a vote for being an athlete. Writing daily is a vote for being a writer. Making sales calls is a vote for being a successful entrepreneur. You don't need to win every vote, but you need to win the majority. You learn that identity change happens through evidence accumulation. You can't just declare, I'm disciplined, and expect your brain to believe it. But when you do the hard thing 5 days in a row, your brain starts recognizing a pattern. When you keep promises to yourself repeatedly, you build self-trust. When you show up consistently, you prove to yourself that you're the type of person who shows up. You absorb the understanding that your identity is not fixed. It's a story you tell yourself that can be rewritten. The labels you accepted, the limitations you believed, the box you lived in. All of it is negotiable. You're not discovering who you are. You're deciding who you are. And that decision gets made through action, repeated until it becomes automatic. You learned about the power of language in identity formation. Instead of, I'm trying to quit smoking, it's, I'm not a smoker. Instead of, I want to be a writer, it's, I am a writer. The subtle shift from aspirational to declarative rewires your brain's relationship to the behavior. You stop fighting against your nature and start expressing it. You absorbed the forbidden knowledge about focus, that it's not about doing more things, but about doing fewer things better. That depth beats breadth. That mastery in one area beats competence in 10. That the jack of all trades is master of none, and in a specialized world, masters dominate. You learn that attention is under constant assault, that every app, platform, notification, and algorithm is engineered by teams of PhDs to hijack your focus and monetize your eyeballs. That the ability to concentrate without distraction on a cognitively demanding task for extended periods is becoming the superpower of the 21st century, because it's becoming rare. You discovered Cal Newport's concept of deep work. The ability to focus without distraction on a cognitively demanding task. That shallow work, email, meetings, admin tasks, feels productive but rarely moves the needle. That deep work is where breakthroughs happen, where value gets created, where you build skills that can't be automated or outsourced. You learn that single tasking is the new multitasking. That what people call multitasking is actually rapid task switching, which research shows decreases productivity by up to 40% and increases errors. That the brain needs about 23 minutes to refocus after an interruption. That checking your phone every 5 minutes isn't neutral, it's sabotage. You absorb the practice of monotasking. You learn to close all tabs except the one you're working on. To put your phone in another room, to use website blockers during focus sessions, to communicate boundaries to people around you, to batch administrative tasks into designated time blocks instead of letting them fragment your day. You discovered that boredom is not the enemy. It's the gateway to creativity. That when you remove constant stimulation, your brain shifts into default mode network, which is where connections form, insights emerge, and ideas synthesize. That the greatest thinkers took long walks, stared at walls, sat in silence. Not because they had nothing to do, but because they understood that space creates possibility. You absorbed the forbidden knowledge about learning, that the ability to learn faster than your competition is the only sustainable competitive advantage. That expertise isn't about what you know now, but about how quickly you can acquire new knowledge and apply it effectively. That the half-life of skills is shrinking. So the meta skill of learning itself is what matters. You learned that traditional education got it backwards. They teach you what to think, not how to think. They prioritize memorization over understanding. They reward conformity over creativity. They prepare you for a world that no longer exists. Real education is self-directed, application-focused, and never-ending. You discovered the Feynman technique. The best way to learn something is to teach it. That if you can't explain a concept in simple terms, you don't really understand it. You learn to consume information actively, not passively. To take notes by hand because it forces processing. To implement immediately because application beats accumulation. You absorbed the truth that reading alone doesn't create transformation. Applied knowledge does. That you could read 1,000 books and stay the same if you never test the ideas. That one book, deeply studied and fully implemented, beats 100 books skimmed and forgotten. That speed reading is overrated, but deep comprehension is priceless. You learned about deliberate practice, not just repeating what you can already do, but constantly pushing into the zone of discomfort where growth happens. That expertise requires approximately 10,000 hours of focused, challenging practice. That natural talent matters far less than systematic improvement. That anyone can become world-class at something if they're willing to put in the work with the right methodology. You discovered the importance of feedback loops. That practice without feedback is just repetition. That you need accurate, timely information about what's working and what's not. That the best learners seek out criticism because it accelerates improvement. That ego is the enemy of learning, and humility is the prerequisite for mastery. You absorbed the forbidden knowledge about decision-making, that you make thousands of decisions daily, and the quality of your life is determined by the quality of your decisions. That decision fatigue is real, which is why successful people automate trivial decisions to preserve mental energy for important ones. That Barack Obama wore the same color suit every day, not because he lacked options, but because he didn't want to waste decision-making capacity on clothing. You learned about first principles thinking, breaking down complex problems to their fundamental truths and reasoning up from there. That most people reason by analogy, doing what others do with minor variations. That innovators reason from first principles, questioning every assumption and building solutions from the ground up. You discovered that good decisions aren't about having perfect information. They're about being okay with uncertainty while maximizing expected value. That analysis paralysis kills more dreams than failure does. That done is better than perfect. That you can course correct as you go, but you can't steer a parked car. You learned about decision journals, writing down what you decided, why you decided it, and what you expected to happen. Then reviewing later to see what actually happened. This creates a feedback loop that improves your decision-making over time by revealing your biases, blind spots, and pattern recognition errors. You absorb the understanding that decisions are reversible or irreversible, and most are reversible. That fear of making the wrong choice keeps people stuck when most choices can be undone or adjusted. That Jeff Bezos categorizes decisions as one-way doors, irreversible, requiring careful analysis, and two-way doors, reversible, requiring fast action and iteration. You learned about opportunity cost, that saying yes to anything means saying no to everything else you could do with that time, money, or energy. That the most expensive purchases aren't the ones where you spend money, but the ones where you spend time. That you'll never have time for everything. So the question isn't, can I fit this in? But is this worth displacing something else? You absorb the forbidden knowledge about systems, that goals are important, but systems are how you actually achieve them. That you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. That winners and losers have the same goals, so goals can't be what separates them. The difference is the system. You learned that a goal is a destination, but a system is the vehicle. That I want to lose 20 pounds is a goal, but I work out 5 times per week and meal prep on Sundays is a system. That goals create temporary motivation, but systems create lasting transformation. That when you fall in love with the system, results become inevitable. You discovered that systems thinking means seeing connections instead of isolated events. Understanding feedback loops, delays, and leverage points, recognizing that quick fixes often have long-term consequences, that the most effective interventions aren't obvious because they target root causes, not symptoms. You learned about automation and delegation, that you should never do manually what can be automated, and never do personally what can be delegated. That your time has a dollar value, and any task someone else can do for less than that value should be outsourced. That saying, I can't afford help, often means you can't afford not to have help, because the opportunity cost is killing you. You absorb the practice of continuous improvement, Kaizen in Japanese, the philosophy of small, incremental upgrades compounding into massive transformation. That getting 1% better every day means you're 37 times better by the end of the year. That most people overestimate what they can do in a day and underestimate what they can do in a year. You discovered that excellence is a habit, not an event. That you don't decide your future. You decide your habits, and your habits decide your future. That champions aren't made in the moment of victory, but in the thousands of hours of practice that preceded it. That overnight success is a myth invented by people who don't see the years of grinding that came before. You absorbed the forbidden knowledge about mindset, that how you interpret events determines their impact on you more than the events themselves. That between stimulus and response lies a space, and in that space lies your power to choose your response. And in that choice lies your growth and freedom. You learned about Carol Dweck's fixed versus growth mindset. That people with fixed mindsets believe abilities are static. You're either smart or you're not, talented or you're not. That people with growth mindsets believe abilities are developable. You can get smarter, more talented, more skilled through effort and learning. That this single belief difference creates radically different life trajectories. You discovered that your mindset about intelligence, relationships, morality, success, everything, shapes your reality. That if you believe you're bad at math, you won't put in the effort to improve, which confirms your belief. That if you believe you can improve, you will put in the effort, which creates improvement, which reinforces your belief. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy either way. You learned about reframing, the ability to find the empowering interpretation of any situation. That losing your job can be devastating or liberating depending on how you frame it. That rejection can be crushing or redirecting. That failure can be ending or beginning. The facts don't change, but your relationship to them transforms everything. You absorb Viktor Frankl's wisdom from the concentration camps, that between stimulus and response, humans have the freedom to choose. That this freedom cannot be taken away even in the most horrific circumstances. That meaning comes not from avoiding suffering, but from finding purpose within it. That when you can't change a situation, you're challenged to change yourself. You discovered the power of language in shaping experience. That I have to becomes I get to. That I can't becomes I haven't yet. That this is too hard becomes this will make me stronger. These aren't just semantic games, they're neurological reframes that change your emotional state and therefore your capabilities. You learned about Stoicism, the ancient philosophy that teaches you can't control what happens to you, but you can control how you respond. That external events are neutral until you assign them meaning. That most of our suffering comes not from reality, but from our judgments about reality. That peace comes from accepting what you cannot change and changing what you can. You absorb the forbidden knowledge about value creation, that money is just a measuring stick for value delivered. That if you want to make more money, you don't need to work harder, you need to create more value. That value comes from solving problems, fulfilling desires, or transforming states. You learn that the marketplace rewards solutions to painful problems, that people pay premium prices when something saves them time, reduces their stress, increases their status, or moves them toward their aspirations. That understanding what people truly want, not what they say they want, but what their behavior reveals, is the foundation of business. You discovered that packaging matters as much as product, that a brilliant solution nobody knows about has zero value. That marketing isn't manipulation. It's education and persuasion in service of helping people make decisions that benefit them. That the better you get at communicating value, the more impact you can have, and the more wealth you can build. You learned about scalability, that your time doesn't scale, but products, content, and systems do. That trading hours for dollars caps your earnings at the number of hours you can work. That building assets that generate income without your direct involvement is how wealth compounds. That intellectual property, automated businesses, and recurring revenue are how you break free from the time for money trap. You absorb the understanding that wealth is built by owning assets, not collecting paychecks. That assets appreciate while liabilities depreciate. That the wealthy buy assets that generate income to buy luxuries, while the poor buy luxuries with income that should have bought assets. That every dollar spent is a dollar that could have been invested to generate more dollars. You discovered that the most valuable asset you can build is your personal brand, your reputation, your expertise, your audience, your network. That in the internet age, one person with a laptop and a message can reach millions. That influence and income potential aren't limited by geography or credentials anymore. That you can build a tribe around your ideas and monetize it in countless ways. You absorbed the forbidden knowledge about reinvention. That you're never stuck being who you've been. That transformation is always available. That the caterpillar doesn't become a better caterpillar through incremental improvement, it becomes something entirely different through complete metamorphosis. That sometimes growth isn't about addition, but about shedding everything that isn't you. You learned that reinvention requires death of old identity. That you can't become new without releasing old. That the person you need to become to reach the next level can't coexist with the person you are now. That growth is uncomfortable specifically because it requires letting go of familiar patterns, comfortable identities, and predictable outcomes. You discovered that most people live their entire lives as rough drafts, never committing to a final version, because that feels permanent. But you learned that life isn't about finding yourself, it's about creating yourself. That you're not excavating some fixed identity buried within you. You're sculpting it fresh every day through choices, actions, and commitments. You learned that reinvention isn't about becoming someone else, it's about becoming more fully yourself. That underneath the conditioning, the expectations, the limiting beliefs, there's an authentic self waiting to be expressed. That courage isn't the absence of fear, it's feeling the fear of being truly seen and showing up anyway. You absorb the understanding that pivots aren't failures, they're course corrections. That changing direction isn't quitting, it's strategically responding to new information. That flexibility is strength, not weakness. That the plan isn't sacred, the vision is. And sometimes the vision requires completely different tactics than you initially imagined. Every piece of this knowledge was hidden from you, not because it's complicated. Most powerful truths are elegantly simple. But because if everyone knew them, if everyone applied them, the game would change completely. The hierarchy would collapse. The gatekeepers would lose their gates. They needed you to believe that success was for special people. People with advantages you'd never have. People who were just different from you in ways you couldn't change. But you discovered the secret. They're not different. They just had different information. And once you got that information, once you absorbed it, metabolized it, applied it, you closed the gap. Then you eliminated it. Then you surpassed it. Because here's what happens when someone who had to fight for knowledge goes up against someone who inherited it. The fighter has a hunger the heir will never understand. The self-taught have a resourcefulness the privileged can't comprehend. The ones who built themselves from scratch have a foundation the ones who are handed everything will never develop. You absorbed forbidden knowledge, and it didn't just educate you. It weaponized you. It turned you into a force they never saw coming. It made you into someone who doesn't just play the game, but changes it. Someone who doesn't just follow the path, but creates new ones. Someone who doesn't just consume knowledge, but generates it through original thinking and real-world application. Look at where you are now compared to where you started. The distance you've covered isn't measured in miles or months. It's measured in mindset shifts, in skill acquisitions, in belief upgrades, in identity transformations. You're not the same person who started seeking. You're not even recognizable to your former self. The questions you ask are different. The problems you solve are bigger. The people you connect with are higher caliber. The opportunities you attract are more aligned. The impact you create is more meaningful. This is what absorbing forbidden knowledge does. It doesn't just give you tactics, it fundamentally rewrites who you are. You became someone who understands that power isn't given, it's built. That mastery isn't inherited, it's earned. That legacy isn't about bloodlines, it's about bold lines, the ones you draw when you decide where your limits are, and then you cross them anyway. You became someone who knows that the knowledge they tried to keep from you wasn't special because it was complicated. It was special because it worked. And now that you have it, now that you've absorbed it, integrated it, embodied it, there's no going back. You can't unknow what you know. You can't unsee what you've seen. You can't unbecome what you've become. They wanted to control who had access to power by controlling who had access to information. But information wants to be free. Knowledge wants to spread. Truth wants to be discovered. And you were hungry enough, curious enough, bold enough to find it. So what did you become when you absorbed forbidden knowledge meant for bloodlines only? You became proof that the game was never about where you came from. It was always about where you were willing to go. Proof that legacy isn't about your last name, it's about your last action, your last decision, your last commitment to growth. Proof that the secret society of successful people isn't actually that secret. You just have to be willing to do what most people won't do, to get what most people don't have. You became living evidence that transformation is available to anyone willing to seek, study, apply, iterate, and persist. That mastery is a choice, not a birthright. That excellence is a practice, not a privilege. You became dangerous to the old order, the one that says stay in your place, know your role, accept your lot. You disrupted that by refusing to accept artificial limitations, by seeing through the smoke and mirrors, by recognizing that the emperor has no clothes and the castle has no moat, just the illusion of barriers that dissolve the moment someone actually tests them. You're not trying to get anymore, you're already inside, building your own empire, setting your own rules, creating your own legacy. But here's the thing about forbidden knowledge. Once you have it, you've got a choice. You can hoard it like they did. Keep it close. maintain the artificial scarcity, or you can share it, teach it, multiply it, create more people who become what you became. The gatekeepers chose option one. That's why you had to fight so hard to access what should have been freely available. But you're not them. You didn't transform just to become another gatekeeper. You evolved to become something better, someone who understands that power shared strategically becomes power multiplied. You became a disruptor, a pattern breaker, a barrier destroyer, someone who doesn't just achieve success, but redefines what success means and who gets to claim it. They tried to keep you out. They failed. Because forbidden knowledge doesn't stay forbidden when someone's determined enough to find it. And you were that someone. You are that someone. You'll always be that someone. The one who refused to accept no, who wouldn't take never, who couldn't stomach staying small. The knowledge that was locked away is now your weapon. The secrets they protected are now your strategy. The wisdom they inherited is now your earned understanding, which makes it more powerful because you fought for it, tested it, proved it, lived it. And that makes all the difference. Because inherited privilege creates comfort. But earned knowledge creates hunger. Inherited wisdom creates complacency. But fought for understanding creates edge. Inherited power creates entitlement. But built from scratch mastery creates gratitude, strategy, and unstoppable momentum. You didn't just learn what they know. You became what they fear, someone with their knowledge plus your hunger. Someone with their strategies plus your resourcefulness. Someone with their principles plus your innovation. That combination is lethal. That combination is unstoppable. That combination is exactly what you've become. The knowledge that was forbidden to you is now your foundation. The secrets they kept from you are now your strength. The game they said you couldn't play. You're not just playing it, you're rewriting the rules. Drop a comment. What forbidden knowledge transformed your entire game? Share one insight that elevated you from player to power player. Let's build a vault of wisdom that can never be locked again.